Hi everyone, this is Mr. N, the Math Nerd, and I want to show you a little trick today for factoring. This is called the bottoms-up method, and we can go ahead and use this when the coefficient in front of the x squared term, such as this one, is not 1. So we can take a look at this, and we have 2x squared minus 9x minus 5. Now, this bottoms-up method, I've heard of it referred to other names, but I like this one the best, and I'll show you why we call it bottoms up as we go through the problem. So the first thing we want to do, also make sure to review my video on the X method because we will be using that in this demonstration as well. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and take these two coefficients, the 2 and the negative 5, and I'm going to multiply them, and I get negative 10. So here's what I'm going to rewrite this problem to be. This problem will be rewritten to be x squared minus 9x minus that 10. And now we will use that technique we talked about, the X method, where this is my product, and this value right here is my sum. So negative 9 is the sum, and negative 10 is the product, and I need to find what two values right here multiply to be negative 10 but add up to be negative 9. And those two values will be negative 10 and 1. Negative 10 times the 1 gives me negative 10. Negative 10 plus the 1 gives me negative 9. So I went ahead and factored that part of it. So now let's go ahead and continue on with the problem. So here's what I do. I will factor this into the x minus 10 and the x plus 1. Now, this is where we take a look at this coefficient that we initially dropped out. This 2 is going to play an important role now. So what I want to do is this 10 right here and this 1, I'm going to put each of those over the 2. So I will put over 2 over 2. Now, this is where this method gets its name. This is called bottoms up. So we are going to first reduce out what we can. This can reduce into x minus 5. This cannot reduce into anything, so we leave it as 1/2. Now, over here, there's no part, there's no denominator on the negative 5. If you take a look, it's just that. So we leave this part alone. On this one, since we have a half here, we're going to do this bottoms up. So this 2 will come up to that x. So this becomes x minus 5 times 2x plus 1. So again, this was the bottoms up technique right here where we went ahead and bottoms up. Put that 2 up there. So this is a nice little trick to use. Again, this is a factoring technique. It's a trick. Go ahead and use it. It works. You could double check. If you FOIL this out, you will get 2x squared minus 10x minus the x minus the 5. And simplifying this, you get what we originally had. And yep, that means we factored it correctly. Let's try it again on number 2. So the first thing we said we do is we take and multiply these two values. So negative 6 times 14 gives me 84. So I will rewrite this problem, and right now I remove the 6 because I'm going to add it back in later. So x squared minus 25x plus the 84. And this is what I want to start factoring. So we'll do our x method. The product is 84. The sum is negative 25. What two values will give me a product of 84 and a sum of negative 25? This one might take some time to think about, but if we try negative 21 times 4, this gives me times negative 4. This gives me positive 84. When I add those together, I get negative 25. So this problem ends up factoring into x minus 21, x minus 4. Now remember that 6 that we said we're gonna ignore for a little bit? Now it has our role. So we're gonna say x minus 21 over 6, x minus 4 over 6. So this 6 goes back into our problem here. So reduce is the next step. So now we reduce. So this becomes x minus 7 over 2. This part becomes x minus 2 over 3 because the 4 and the 6 reduce down to 2/3. Over here, the 21 and the 6 reduce down to 7/2. So now, guess what? It's bottoms up time. So this 2 will come up, this 3 will come up. So this ends up coming up here, and this 3 ends up coming up there to give us 2x minus 7 times 3x minus 2. And you can go ahead and check that by foiling it out, and that's correct. That's what the problem will be factored. Let's go ahead and do a couple more, so make sure we understand this method. It's a nice little trick. Again, first learning how to do these, maybe don't try this trick, get a hang of it, and then go ahead and give this a try. All right, let's take a look at this one. We have 5x squared plus 13x minus 6. Step 1, we need to get a product. So we're going to multiply these two, and I'll get negative 30. So step 2, rewrite this to say x squared plus 13x minus the 30. Step 3, factor this part of it. I have a product of a negative 30 and a sum of 13. So this factors into 15 and negative 2. So 15 times negative 2 gives me negative 30, and 15 plus negative 2 gives me 13. So x plus 15 times x minus 2. Now, remember that 5? That 5 comes into play again. We put it right underneath each parts over here. So now we reduce. So this 5 went there, and now we reduce it. So this gives me x plus 3. And this gives me x minus 2/5. So nothing to reduce on this one. Now, there's no bottom here, so we don't do bottoms up. This one has the bottom right there, so that comes right up here. So x plus 3, and then 5x minus 2. There's our bottoms up factoring technique. You can FOIL this out, double check it, and you will get the correct answer. All right, let's move on to this last one. Again, same process. We need to multiply these two, the leading coefficient and the constant, and here we will get negative 48. So we rewrite this to say x squared. Let's use the other color real quick. So we're going to rewrite this to say x squared minus 22x minus 48. And now I factor. We could use the x method however you want. A product of negative 48, a sum of negative 22. What two values will work out? Let's try something basic, 24. Okay, 24 times 2. That works. So if I say negative 24 and I say positive 2, this gives me a product of negative 48 and a sum of negative 22. So this factors into x minus 24, x plus 2. Remember that 16? Here we go. We're going to put this as a denominator here, and we reduce. So this becomes x minus let's see, this will be 3/2. On this side, we have x plus 1/8. Time for bottoms up. This goes up here. This goes up there. So here on this problem now, we are going to end up with the 2x minus 3. And on this side, we have 8x plus 1. So this is the problem factored. Again, you can try foiling it out and double checking. You will get the correct answer. Thanks again for watching, and hope to see you soon.